welcome to the show, Miranda. We're going to dive into the spark behind her writing, what inspires her, what keeps her going, and all the little things that make her stories come alive. So let's grab that quill and see where it takes us. All right, welcome.
Really great to be here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming. I really do. So the first question I have for you is can you tell everyone a little bit more about yourself and how you started writing?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, basically, it's kind of something that's always sort of been a part of me, really, sort of ever since I was little, kind of. I always really loved reading, and so it just kind of naturally sort of appeared from that sort of really. I mean, like, me and my older sister, we used to always get these kids magazines
Mhm.
sort of every weekend. And like they always used to come with like a free gift or something. And
Mhm.
most of the times it was a notebook and pen. And I remember my sister kind of making fun of that, just like, oh, they always have a notebook and pen. But I loved that because, it was a new thing for me to write in. And yeah, I remember the first book I think that sort of really got me like super into reading and everything. I remember it clearly because it was a Christmas present from my grandparents. It was actually The Longest Whale Song by Jacqueline Wilson,
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, like Jacqueline Wilson, she was like basically the British children sort of the staple. There's probably like loads of, especially girls out there who was like, yep, read Wilson books. Sorry, my voice went weird then. But
It's fine.
yeah, and so there was that. And in more sort of recent years, it's kind of like COVID and lockdown and all that played a big part in sort of me starting to get serious with it and everything. I remember I've written a couple of short stories, which I haven't sort of posted online or
Mhm.
published in any way. They're sort of still in my room, sort of in like in my documents folder on Google Drive and stuff. And but soon after that, ended up going towards poetry as well because I don't know. I suppose I've always been sort of fascinated by poetry, sort of studying it at school, and looking just at how it was all sort of structured and everything, and just it just seems so pretty to me. I guess
Mhm.
and the feelings behind it and the emotions, and
Yeah.
plus yeah, yeah, it's just and it's just kind of like yeah, I'm also a huge fan of music as well and songs. And probably the great loves of my life probably go writing and reading, and then a close second is music. And poetry and lyrics in songs, they're basically the
Same. They
same.
are. They are
Yeah.
absolutely the same. Yeah. I'm a
Mm.
huge fan of poetry. I'm a huge fan of music. And a lot of people don't understand that, but like for me, I listen to rap music sometimes not just because of the beat, but because it is poetry set to music. And I know, like
Yeah.
saying, it's like it's just poetry. Like one of my old
Mm.
teachers, when I was in college, was like, "We're going to study Tupac this year, a lot of Tupac," and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're going to study him because he's one of the great poets." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I agree, but I've never heard any literary teacher say that." And she was like, "Yeah, we're just going to study him for a while," and I'm like, "Cool, I'm down with that," because I love Tupac, but that's
Yeah.
beside the point. But and that's kind of how it all goes together. So that's absolutely interesting. I mean, I'm the same way. So, what was the first piece or first story that you ever did, Miranda, that actually made you feel like you wanted to be a writer and wanted to start, like, really start? Because it turned the page into, okay, I like doing this too. I really want to do this.
Yeah, I think it was probably the first proper short story that I wrote. And, nobody other than my family has actually seen it, but I definitely wouldn't rule out sort of putting it out into the world. That's definitely something that's still potentially on the table, sort of thing. Though, the one thing that sort of makes it different from my poetry is that this particular story, it is admittedly very grim, you know? I mean, it's pretty violent and pretty sort of graphic, which I think would surprise a lot of people because, like, yeah, I think when people meet me, that's not really how I come across, you know? And but like it's a work that I'm really proud of because I put a lot of my beliefs and my thoughts into the story sort of thing. And, it was a story that I kind of connected with at the time. It was just really important to me. And, yeah, if I do sort of decide to put it out into the world, I think the only way that I'd feel comfortable doing that is if I had, like, a long list of trigger warnings at the beginning, because it definitely wouldn't be for everyone, which I appreciate, you know? So, there definitely have to be a lot of warnings, but then again, it's kind of like, yeah, I wouldn't rule out putting it out there because, I am really proud of it and, it's something that's special to me.
Well, with that being said, you know that the horror and psychological horror really, really grip people.
Mm,
There's a really big niche for that right now. So that's huge.
yeah.
So do know that. I don't know if you've seen it, but I put out The Road to Nowhere, which is a short story. It's about a truck driver and it started on Substack again. I started another one it's short. It's going to be a short story, but it's going to be like maybe 6 or 7 chapters and I already put out the first chapter. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's a huge niche for that. I'm normally into fantasy, but I have a psychological and criminal justice background, so I can get into that mode. So whatever
Mm,
pulls you into it and brings you through it is, I mean, I would definitely think about putting it out there because it probably would really.
mm. Yeah, plus I think sort of like what's really special about sort of horror and psychological horror and thriller is that I feel like it's one of those genres where you can sort of really explore the real life issues in an interesting way, sort of thing.
Mhm.
You can sort of get something that's going on in the world and in sort of like the climate sort of thing, and you can find a sort of interesting way to express that and get that point across, sort of
Right.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And you're right about that because everybody can kind of put themselves into that position where they can feel it, but yet it's not, like it's not them, but they can feel how it could grip them and make them want to put themselves in that position. Like, how would I feel if I was there? So yeah, that's very
Mm,
true. So yeah, that's
yeah.
interesting. I mean, really. How old are you?
I'm 23.
Oh, that's awesome. You're a great writer. You really are. Very great.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So, who has influenced your writing the most? Like, not like artist wise, but in your life?
Yeah, well, I suppose, a lot of things have sort of influenced my writing, kind of like my sort of experiences and my life. And my sister's also been a big help because, she's also pretty creative as well. And so, we support each other,
Mhm.
so that she's like my rock in the writing world. So, yeah, there is that, and my family's really supportive as well. And, I kind of like try to look for inspiration everywhere, sort of
Mhm.
thing, from the people around me, from what's going on in the world, sort of what's going on
Right.
in my life, sort of thing, and just kind of like pull all of
Bring it
that
all
together,
together.
sort of thing. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that. What does your writing routine look like? Do you have rituals, habits, or any quirks to help you get in the zone?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's like, yeah, it goes back to the whole thing about how music and poetry and stories and all that, they all sort of link together. Because sometimes what I like to do is sort of listen to music that sort of matches the themes of what I'm writing and matches the vibe and stuff.
Mhm.
It's like you've got a soundtrack for the thing that you want
Right,
to sort of get out there, sort of thing. And, sort of like, sort of something that you want to sort of emulate in a way, sort of
right.
thing. And yeah, that's something that I really like to do, listening to music beforehand. I just feel like that helps me get in the zone a lot.
That makes perfect sense. It helps you to just, get there and just immediately just takes you there. That's perfect. That makes perfect sense. Do you outline your stories or write more by instinct and discovery? Do you just start writing or do you think about an outline and what you're going to write first?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because, like, when I was sort of researching about writing and sort of learning ways to get better and stuff, I ended up reading about this one thing about like plotters versus pantsers. And it's kind of like the plotters being the people who have to sort of plan and sort of structure everything, and the pantsers the being the people who just kind of improvise and see where the story takes them and stuff.
Mhm,
And honestly, when I really reflect on it, it's kind of like I think I've flitted between the two a lot, depending on the situation. Because it's like for a lot of stories, I'm definitely a plotter, especially
mhm,
since I like mysteries and thriller. And it's like if there's going to be a lot of twists and turns, I want to make sure I plan it out
mhm,
and that it's all watertight and the twist sort of makes sense, when you read through it a second time and everything and it's all clips together. But, with poetry, I'm kind of more of a pantser, I guess, which is
mhm,
it's like I suppose it's probably because it's more my own feelings and stuff.
mhm.
I just like to start and just see what comes out really, what comes out of the pen, where it sort of takes me and everything. And yeah, though I mean, recently I've started to become more of a pantser even with the stories because it's kind
Mhm,
of like I think maybe I was reflecting on it. I was thinking maybe I get too caught up in the planning. And, it's kind of like I don't want to spend hours and hours planning something, which I could sort of productively spend actually writing the thing.
right.
I mean, that's not like criticizing plotters in any way, because,
No.
whatever method works for you,
Mhm.
it's great. But, like, I mean, for me personally, I just kind of think, am I just procrastinating here?
Right. Or
Yeah.
overthinking it or yeah, I'm the
Yeah.
same way. I'm a linear writer. So when I write, I do not plot it out. I make sure that I'm just sitting down and it just takes shape as it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of like sort of you can you can sort of go back and change things and then
Mhm,
there's like second drafts and everything.
mhm,
So I mean, the first time it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just
mhm.
about sort
Getting
of
it out.
getting it done. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, I like that a lot. That makes perfect sense to me. So what is the favorite scene or character that you've written so far or poetry? What is your favorite
Yeah.
piece?
Well, I think it's probably the ones that sort of hit particularly close to home. I
Mhm,
mean, I remember the ones that I always come back to is this one poem I wrote called The Scars on My Heart, which
mhm,
I wrote about my experiences with OCD.
mhm,
And also the poem which I wrote before that, which was called Scaredy Cat. And I wrote that about my struggle with phobias you
Mhm.
know, particularly sort of I've got a really bad phobia of loud noises, like the sort of loud noises that like make you jump and stuff.
Mhm.
So, you know, I hate fireworks. I hate sort of balloons bursting and stuff, and I really don't like that. And honestly, it's kind of like that poem kind of almost makes me relieved that I've never had to do a reading, you
Mhm.
know? I mean, like, I wouldn't rule out doing a public reading, but it's kind of like that poem's so hard hitting that sometimes when I reread it, I just sort of skim over a couple of verses because I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, that hits really close to home, you know, that's
Right.
like really raw sort of thing, you know? I basically sort of touched a nerve with myself just then.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, but you know, it's definitely worth doing because, you know, it's very cathartic and it's a great way to sort of you know, what I find that's really beautiful about poetry is that it's like a message in a bottle, you know.
Mhm.
You're sort of getting your experience out there, and, you know, people sort of read it, and some people relate, and some people sort of they've experienced that, and, you
Mhm.
know, it's sort of making those connections sort of thing and reaching out
Right.
to other people and making them feel seen as well.
Exactly. Or they're bringing a light to what other people deal with because other people don't
Yeah.
always know. Not everybody understands
Mm.
OCD or phobias or things like that. And I understand that completely. I have a phobia of a few things myself, not anything that inhibits my daily living, but if I'm around it, I'm definitely going to go the opposite direction because I can't,
Mm.
it's just not something I can do. And I have one it's absolutely unbelievably I don't even know where it came from. I do not like wet hair. I do not like wet hair.
Oh,
And the reason why is because it just wraps around you and you can't get it off.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just hard for me. So I understand completely. And it's just like, I just get real, it's just not okay. It's like, I'm like, get this off me
yeah,
now, you know? Dry hair, I'm good with
yeah,
all day long, but it's when it's wet because it just kind of suction cups to you. I don't like it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I
well,
get it.
yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's just kind of like, I think for a lot of people, it's kind of like if, um, if they haven't experienced it, it can be very difficult for sort of other people to understand sort of
Hmm.
thing. And, you know, they just kind of, they don't get it sort of
Hmm.
thing. And, you know, that's another reason why I really love writing about it because it sort of it helps with
Bring
that
attention.
empathy and it
Mhm.
yeah.
And it does deserve attention because believe it or not, and I would say up to 75% of people in this world have a phobia of some kind. Now, some of them
Mm,
limit their ability to function, others it does. Like, you have agoraphobia, which is the fear of outside and things like that. But I mean,
mm,
70% of the people in this world, if not more, have a phobia. And so bringing light
yeah,
just means that you're not alone. It means they're not alone. And
mm,
it's one of those things, like, people are just born with them, it's just one of those things. It just I don't know what causes it, but they're there. So, I mean,
yeah,
paying attention to things like that because then people don't feel alone anymore. And that's the thing
yeah,
writing does. It kind of bridges that gap between loneliness and community, I feel like, because we all need to feel like we're not the only one, right? So, and that's great.
mm,
I appreciate that. And I remember reading Scaredy Cat. I really liked it. I think I posted underneath and said something like, "This is amazing. You did a great job," because I really
thank
thought
you.
I felt it. It felt real. It felt like, okay, yeah, as much as it is raw, it is like it's community and it helped, because people like me, people like you, lots of people are going to feel that and it's going to resonate deeply. So you did a great job. You're doing great
Oh,
there.
thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
It really means a lot.
You're very welcome. Well, let me ask you this. How do you balance writing with the rest of your life?
Yeah, well, it's kind of yeah, I mean, it's that's kind of definitely been a journey sort of for me a little bit because it's kind of like sometimes you've got other things going on in your life and it can
Mhm,
kind of feel like you're spinning a lot of plates, what with
mhm,
work and, other various things going on. And it's kind of like, I suppose one thing that I've always learned is don't put too much pressure on yourself.
mhm,
I mean, like sometimes, you've got to sort of step back and everything, just for a little bit, just to give yourself time to sort of work on each thing individually and everything. I
right,
mean, like, I remember the first time with Substack where I took an offline day, and it was because there were like builders in my house working on things and stuff. And
mhm,
like, honestly, workmen coming round to the house, that's always something that I found slightly overwhelming a little bit
mhm,
because it's kind of like you then have to sort of restructure your whole
mhm.
routine sort of around the fact that there are people in your
In
house
your home,
working
yeah,
on something. Yeah, and
absolutely, yeah, because you have to go around them
yeah,
because they're in your space.
yeah, definitely. And so that was kind of like one example where I was just like, nah, I'm so stressed, I can't even think, so I'm just gonna take it easy for today, you know. And like another thing that I find really helps when, there's a lot of things going on is to just sort of try and view them as separate things, sort
Mhm,
of thing. So it's kind
yeah,
of like I look at the week and I sort of try to prioritize and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this task on this day, then I'll do this task on this day. And it just kind of feels a lot better, sort of spreading it out a bit more if it's
mhm,
possible to do that instead of just trying to do it all in one day and sort of I mean, it's like it's weird though because there's such a pressure just to be productive all the time
mhm,
that sometimes you can feel like you've got to do all of these things at once, even though it's not actually that necessary, sort of thing.
mhm, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, life puts
sometimes, yeah.
a lot of different, I mean, we all have to wear a lot of different hats every day, and we have to do a lot of
Mm,
different things every day, and it's almost like sometimes we forget that it's okay to rest. It's okay to take
mm,
that moment and just be and not be doing anything. That's huge.
mm, yeah.
For us, for our mental, for us to be able to write. And that's the thing I think for writers and poets and people that are artists, they forget that they need to rest. They forget they need rest
Mm,
because they're so busy. Their mind goes so fast all the time about what's the
mm,
next thing I'm going to write about, what's the next thing I want to, do. And then they're sitting there and they're so exhausted and they're like, what's wrong with me? Well, I mean, you just spun out 18 different things and you got them all open at once. And it's like your brain has 20 tabs open and every one of them, and it's like a computer. So make sure you get your rest. That's definitely for sure. We need rest.
yeah.
So it's okay to say, I'm not doing it today. I'm just not doing it today. You know?
Yeah.
So you're right. I agree with you 1000%. Um, what has been the most surprising or unexpected part of your writing journey so far?
Well, I mean, I think one thing that's sort of been a very surprising thing was sort of because like a lot of the poems that I sort of posted up on Substack at the very least at the start when I was sort of first doing it, a lot
Mhm,
of them were poems that I actually wrote the year before.
mhm,
And I it wasn't until I sort of discovered Substack and I sort of saw what it could be used for and stuff that I actually
mhm,
started posting them up there. But like when I was originally writing those poems, I had no idea that anyone was ever going to see them. I was just doing something that I loved for me, sort of thing. And, it's funny because it's like when I was sort of looking at them and deciding which ones to post, there
mhm,
were some that I kind of didn't really think were that good, sort of thing. I was very
mhm,
sort of critical of them. And then I post them up there, and suddenly there's all these likes and people are
mhm,
commenting on them. And it makes me appreciate those poems in like a whole new way because it's kind of like, okay, sorry, poem, I really underestimated you, sort of thing, you
Exactly.
know, and yeah, yeah. And so, it just sort of goes to show that, like, basically don't be too hard on yourself because you never know what people are going to connect with, sort of thing. You
Exactly.
never, yeah, there can be a lot more to it than sort of meets the eye. And I ended up getting a new appreciation for a couple of the poems that I did.
That's amazing. Yeah, you never know where your audience is going to come from.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So, have you ever had to deal with rejection? If you have, how did you navigate that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, yeah, it's definitely kind of a difficult one when you sort of pick this sort of career path sort of thing, I
Mhm.
guess, because it's kind of like it's basically part of it, There are going to be some people who don't like it, and it's all very sort of subjective. And
Mhm.
you hear all these stories about people, it's like, oh, this famous book got rejected 50 times before it was finally discovered and all that.
Stephen King. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. I think he
definitely.
went to 30 different he actually went to 30 different publishers or agents before they picked up I believe it was Carrie or Christine. I think it was his car one. Christine.
Yeah, Christine. Yeah.
Car.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so, it just goes to show that even the people who are the greats, sort of like the top tier, even they had a lot of rejections.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's kind of like, I've like sort of sent stuff off to like competitions and stuff. And, I really sort of believe in it. And then it doesn't win. And I'm just kind of like, well, you just got to remember they get loads of entries and everybody's so talented and
Yeah.
it's kind of like yeah, you can let your mind sort of wander and think, wow, this could be my big break, this could be it. But
Right.
at the end of the day, it's kind of like it's not something to take personally. It's just sort
Hmm.
of another step in the journey sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And like,
Exactly.
yeah, and it's funny because I was talking sort of about how sometimes something can sort of go beyond your expectations, but then sometimes the reverse happens. And
Hmm.
you write something and you're convinced, yet this is perfect in every way, but then it doesn't sort of
It doesn't hit.
blow up.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
just like it just kind of fizzles and you're like, well, darn, that one was great. Yeah, I completely respect that. I
yeah,
understand. I get it. What advice
yeah.
would you give to any aspiring writers who are just starting?
I think it would probably definitely be write what you're passionate about. Be sort of, it sounds cheesy, but be yourself. Write about things that you're passionate about because it's kind of like, I always find it's just makes writing so much more easier when
Hmm.
you believe in what it is that you're writing. It makes it more honest, it makes it more powerful. And yeah, it's kind of an interesting question to sort of come after the rejection one because, like, an important part is to sort of be resilient, sort of, and to not sort of let it get you down too much. I mean, when you're online, that's like a great chance to sort of network and make connections with other writers and
Hmm.
sort of like support each other and stuff. And
Right.
sometimes when you reach out to people, that's going to be the start of something, but sometimes it isn't. And but like it's yeah, it's nothing personal. It just if it works out, it works out. That's great. Just focus on that and try not to look back and think about the times where it's not worked out. Just like
Right.
focus on the positives and the wins.
Right. So basically be authentically yourself, write authentically
Mm,
something that makes you happy. Don't focus on the ones that don't, focus on the ones that do. Do more of that, right?
mm.
So that's basically
Yeah,
what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah.
you're awesome. You're great. Thank you for that. Okay, so the
Thank
next part
you.
we're gonna do, you're welcome, hon. The next part we're gonna do is it's basically rapid fire. I'm gonna ask you just a few more questions and I want you to give me the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Okay, cool,
All
cool.
right. So coffee or tea while writing?
Chilled coffee.
Chilled
That's
coffee.
like
Very
really
good.
specific, but yeah.
It is. I love it. I would have probably asked you iced or hot. Favorite snack?
Crisps.
Crisps.
And
Got it.
it doesn't matter the type. I'll just eat any crisp.
Any of them. It doesn't matter. If you could co-write a book or any with any author, living or dead, who would it be?
Probably Jacqueline Wilson.
Got it. And one word that describes your writing style.
I think honest, I guess. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, it's really difficult, but
I
I
think
think
that
that's
that
probably the
really
one I'd
is
go
you.
with.
Yeah, it is
Oh,
you.
thank
I
you.
think so. You're very honest. You're very, this is a look into my life and that way you don't feel alone type of writing. You put it out there so people can feel it. So it's really, really great. I want to really thank you for being with me today. I really want to thank you for coming on the podcast, for coming in here and meeting with me. And I really hope to have you back someday. You're great. And you've been
Yeah.
amazing. Have you
Oh,
been
thank you so much.
How'd you
Yeah,
like
it's
it?
been
Everything
great.
good? Yeah?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I mean, it's
Good.
great. It's been great being here.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
it's
been
been
great to
great
have
meeting
you.
you.
It's great to meet you too, Miranda, and I really appreciate it. So, we're gonna wrap up because my Zoom will end in a few minutes, but what we'll do
Okay.
um, I want to, let you go ahead and tell everybody where to find you. So let them know.
Yeah. I mean, my Substack is at Miranda 2025, and it'd be great to see you all there.
Yeah, come on over and visit Miranda and see her wonderful work. She has great, great, great content and writing. And I've always found it very amazing. So I want to thank you so much for being with me. And I definitely have you back again sometime. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You've been listening to the Writer's Quill, The Ink Between Us. I'm glad you shared this time with us. Until next time, keep writing, keep dreaming, and let's let the ink keep us connected. Thanks, Miranda.
Thank you.